Now you just got done describing design in a broadest of possible ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the portfolio is now not, it's
It's,
still there.
I
It's
mean, I've
just
been trying to
not the
delete
same
it
stuff.
online. Yeah. But I can't.
No, I mean
Yeah.
you're still building a portfolio.
Yeah.
It's just in this whole other, and it's much more abstract
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
And it
Anyway,
matters differently as well. I can, at this stage, I can care less in a lot of ways what people think about it. And I'm more focused on the fruit that I'm creating, whether people see it or not, and we could talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah.
But
Come back to this compound interest thing. What is
so
that
as far
about?
as what I was getting at with being a designer is that, I had to really sit with that and really understand being a designer meant grabbing all of these different data points and creating something out of all of those things. And I think for me, compounding interest, it's not like, in finance where you see the snowball effect of compounding interest. It's I'm compounding the interests that I have. And over years, I follow my curiosity a lot, and I'm very happy doing that, even if it looks completely different to somebody else. But what I've found in my career is that as I follow a certain curiosity, that leads me to another curiosity, and I'm able to compound on each one of those things. And so it's led me to what I'm doing now, and who knows where it'll take me, but I don't think that's something I'll ever let go of.
Yeah. And how do you equate that to being a leader?
I think the biggest piece is I'm not thinking about it in a sense of like, hey, if you're my direct report and we have a one-on-one, it's like, okay, great, I did great with Kirk, so that just compounds my credibility. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at it in a sense of, if I'm having a one-on-one with Kirk, how am I showing up to that meeting? How am I showing up to that? Am I leaving gaps that I'm trying to fill for my own sake in my conversation with Kirk, or am I showing up completely, fully, in the sense of, we can elaborate more on that idea for sure.
There's a embedded notion of momentum building in it, right? That's the snowball effect over time. And I like the way you said you're compounding your interest. And so this curiosity and all these things you're collecting are contributing to your ability to lead and create value.
Yeah.
And one of the ways we think about this in how we build companies is there's the break fix model, which requires innovation and a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And in America we say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Leave it alone. It's fine. And because we're after that innovation, we want the creativity. We want these massive displays of, moonshots and things like that. And that's good. There's we got to the moon. It's incredible. So we're a highly innovative, creative culture, but we sometimes lose the power of momentum in the process, which is what you find in the methodology that becomes the continual improvement notions that we learn from Japan largely, in the Kaizen approach to things, where they say everything can always, don't wait till it's broken, right? Everything can always be improved just a little bit every day. And it feels like that's a distinction you're making. And a lot of what I think we call, the obvious leaders that we go, oh, there's a leader. We actually will call them natural born leaders, as though there's some sort of genetic test.
Right.
And I think that's just a carryover from bloodlines,
right?
Which is not the right answer. But nonetheless, it's this idea that there's those people are the ones that we see because they do these big flashy things, and at times it's exactly the kind of leadership we need. But when you bring up this notion of compound interest and momentum and continual improvement and collecting experiences that all build together over what might be long periods of time, your influence grows. And leadership is about wielding power, and power and influence are the same word in my mind. How much influence can you collect? And I've watched you over time just consistently lean into this, which is why when you brought up that metaphor, I'm like, not only is that a fun idea, it's genuine, authentic to who you are and what you've done.
I find myself oddly reflecting on those thoughts, every night, where what did I improve today, or what did I do better, and consistently finding that, even on a behavioral level for myself,
Yeah.
trying to make sure that I'm improving something every single day. And it's not super intentional where I'm like, I have to improve my health or my physical fitness. It's not like that. It's just, I ask myself the question, what did I improve? Whatever it may have been, did I read more, or did I talk to my kids in a more attentive way today? Did I give, my wife more space or more time to be able to connect with me, or whatever it is, So even when I'm looking at operationally a company, if I'm working with a founder and I'm paying attention to a similar point of view, I'm really trying to pay attention to, okay, if at least for me, the goal is to take this company from, point A to point B, still leaving C, D, and E, for us to do collectively. But I need to make sure I'm seeing it go from point A to point B. So in order for me to do that, it's going to take some time, because that's a pretty big gap for me, at least the way I set it up, right? But I need to make sure that every single day that we're making an incremental improvement or adjustment that's going to allow us to get to point B at some point, So, and it's behaviorally, for me, it's compounding all of my personal interests, whatever it may be. But on a day-to-day basis, the way I approach the work that I do is in the very, very similar way, where, it's consistently got to continue to improve.
Click, 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 click.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like I did pretty well in the tech space, is because it was, it was a lean startup model. It was, break it till you make it kind of thing, and continue to iterate on it on a day-to-day basis. And from a product perspective, that just fueled me even more, just because that's what I enjoy,
If you were to bring this down practically to somebody, and you were trying to teach somebody this mode of leadership, where would you ask them to start?
Yeah, I mean, I've met people. I'm very introverted. I like to think a lot. We've talked about that, and I think a lot about my thinking, kind of thing. But I've met people who are complete opposites from me, and I can see them taking a very similar approach to some of these things. Where, I've seen people separate and say, hey, I only browse the internet for 30 minutes at 7 p.m. every single day, and they'll schedule that. I'm like, I could never do that. I can't be that disciplined. I need the fluidity for myself, But the fact that they're doing that every single day, they're saying no to something else. So in my mind, they're compounding the value of time or a value of attention or whatever that is, and they do that enough every single day, they're going to see fruit from that.
Right.
So, but to me, those are behaviors that I can spot from someone, where it's like, okay, I can see how you process certain things and how you operate and how you lean into learning. But I think it boils down to learning.
Okay.
I think learning is probably one of the biggest attributes that leads to this type of thing.
And by learning, you're constantly bringing in new ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Right. New ways of seeing the world. It's not relearning the same thing you've always learned.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the idea of like, and you might think otherwise, but I don't feel like I overthink things. Right. But I feel like I think about things. I think about my thinking quite a bit. And we talked about this idea of like, if I have this idea that I'm processing or a problem that I'm analyzing, I like to sit with it. I don't wonder about it. I'm more looking at it from every single perspective, almost without judgment, and really trying to analyze the data points of what makes this thing up. Where did this come from? How did it get there? If it were to break, what would it take to put it back together? And how can it be better, and all of those types of things. So I just sit with that, and most of the time it's just me who knows that information, and a lot of those conversations just never even get out if I don't see any value for it, or maybe I've analyzed it enough that I'll bring it to the table with a lot of other people and a lot of other leaders, and I could just throw it at the table and say, hey guys, this is what I have. This is where I've gotten it down to. And now let's tear it apart, but I can feel confident that I can have a conversation about it now, because I've been able to sit with it for enough time,